Are we live? We are live. Hello, 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 everyone. How are you today? How are you feeling today? How has your Thursday been today? The week is almost over. Yay! So, we are here once again. Thank you for joining us for the second part of our Shakespeare April Fest, where we will continue to listen to the story of A Midsummer Night's Dream by our dear old William Shakespeare. Now, as this is a story that is continued each week, for those of you who are joining us today and weren't with us last week, don't fret, don't worry. I'm going to give you a little summary of what happened in the story last week. But before we do that, can you do me a favor? Can you write a little comment telling me where you're tuning in from? This way we can get an idea, because I love to see those awesome comments after I'm done with these reads from all of the audience telling me where they're from and how much they enjoy the experience. So if you could send just a couple of comments before we begin, telling me where you're tuning in from, that would be absolutely fabulous. And let me share with you a summary from last week. Hermia and Lysander are in love with each other. However, Demetrius also loves Hermia, and Helena loves Demetrius. Oh my goodness. We're talking about a very complex love triangle. While the young people pursue each other through the wood, the forest, a fairy named Puck accidentally causes both Lysander and Demetrius to fall in love with Helena. A night of chaos and confusion follows. But with a little magic, order is going to be restored, and the couples will enjoy a happy ending. But we have to continue the story to see what is going to happen with all of these characters. So, Morocco, Kiev, Pakistan, Serbia, Ukraine, Greece. I love it. And we're talking about all different points of the globe, people coming together, sharing this experience. This is one of the reasons why we love social media and the internet, right? So share the love. When we're done with this, tag your friends, share the videos, find us on our page, and what better way than to spread some reading joy with your students. So, without further ado, let us get into chapter 4. Stop following me, Helena, yelled Demetrius. I've told you 1,000 times I don't love you, and I never will. But Demetrius, we're supposed to be together, said Helena, as she hurried after her former fiancé. It is our destiny. Demetrius turned around to face her. My destiny is to be with Hermia. She is the woman I love. Now go away. But Hermia is going to marry Lysander, said Helena. She doesn't love you, Demetrius. Don't you mention Lysander's name to me, said Demetrius. I will kill him if I have to win over my beloved Hermia. Please, Demetrius, said Helena as she grabbed the young man's arm. We belong together. You'll learn to love me again. I know it. Demetrius pushed her away angrily. I pity you, Helena," he said. "Here you are in this dark wood, chasing after a man who hates you. You're pathetic. I can't even stand to look at you." Helena's brown eyes filled with tears. "But I love you, Demetrius," she said quietly. "My life has no meaning without you." Demetrius sighed. Go back to Athens, Helena. I have to find Hermia and stop her from making a foolish mistake. Stop chasing me. You will only get hurt." Demetrius walked off angrily, leaving Helena alone in the dark wood. The girl sat on a rock and wept bitterly. I won't give up on you, Demetrius," she sobbed as she wiped the tears from her eyes with a handkerchief. "I won't," she said. Oberon, who had been watching the girl from behind a tree, suddenly felt very sorry for her. Such a pretty girl, he thought, shaking his head. That young man is a fool, unlike Puck. Oberon never got involved in the affairs of humans, but he was so moved by the girl's sad situation that he decided to help her. "Fear not, fair lady," said Oberon. "By morning he will love you as much as you love him." When Helena fell, when Helena felt she could cry no more, she stood up, took a deep breath, and marched into the wood to continue her pursuit of the man she loves. Moments later, Puck returned carrying a small bunch of purple flowers. Do you remember what the purple flowers are for? The purple flowers from the wood. Let me take a moment here. Hello, everyone. Algeria. Hello, everyone from Lima. The purple flowers, where they squeezed the purple flowers that was struck by Cupid, right? And it allows people to fall in love with the first person they see. "Here they are, sire," said Puck, holding up the flowers proudly. Oberon took the flowers from his servant and breathed in their scent. "Ah, you have done well, Puck," he said. "There is a lovely young Athenian woman traveling through the wood in pursuit of a man she loves. Unfortunately, the man does not love her, yet I want us to change that. Take one of these flowers and pour the liquid onto the young man's eyelids when he falls asleep. Make sure that the young lady is the first person he sees when he wakes up." Oberon handed Puck a flower, and the fairy put it in his pocket. "But how will I recognize the young man?" he asked. "He's dressed like an Athenian," said Oberon. "I'm going to Titania's cave now," his wife. "Meet me in the glade in a couple of hours." Puck nodded. "Good luck, sire." The fairy skipped away with only the silvery light of the moon as his guide. Oberon went in search of his wife. When the king arrived at the cave, the queen's fairy servants were standing outside. With a wave of his hand, they left. from the entrance. Oberon found Titania, his wife, sleeping on a bed of white flowers. "You look like an angel, my darling," he said. The king removed a flower from his pocket and leaned over his wife. He crushed the flower in his hand and poured the purple liquid onto Titania's eyelids. Then Oberon whispered a magical chant. "In an hour you will wake, my dear, and when an ugly creature's near, you will see him as a beautiful thing and fall deeply in love with him." The fairy king smiled to himself and quickly left the cave. Hello from Mexico. Hello from Germany, Ukraine. Once again, thank you for coming and being with us today. I love it. Huge smile. Thank you very much. It's so great to have you here with us. Now, on to chapter 5. This is where it gets kind of interesting now. So we have everybody in the forest, right? Puck has been given a mission. Oberon has already placed some of the liquid on his wife's eyelids. But Puck, well, we have to see what's going to happen with Puck. Puck is young. Puck is very, very energetic. Puck listens, but sometimes he may not do the right thing. Sounds a little bit like our students sometimes, or our children, right? So, after wandering through the wood for hours, Lysander and Hermia, who were in the wood at this time, arrived at the glade. "We've been walking for hours, Lysander," complained Hermia. "Are you sure we're going in the right direction?" Lysander pulled a small map from his pocket and examined it very carefully. He glanced around the glade. Uncertain, though, which path to follow. I honestly don't know if we're going in the right direction," he said finally. "Perhaps we should rest here just for a few hours and continue our journey in the morning." Hermia nodded. "I suppose that would be best," she said. Lysander took Hermia's hand and the couple walked to a nearby oak tree. Now, an oak tree is one of the biggest trees in the wood. It is gigantic. The young man sat down and leaned his head against the tree. Hermia sat down beside him and opened the small bag she had been carrying. "Are you hungry?" she asked. "I brought some fruit with me." Lysander shook his head. "No, I'm not hungry." By the time Hermia had finished eating the apple, Lysander had fallen asleep. That fast. The girl smiled at her sleeping fiancé and then lay down on the grass next to him. Within minutes, she too had fallen asleep. A short while later, dun, da, dun, da, 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 Puck, the fairy, entered the glade. "I've looked everywhere for the Athenian youth, and I can't find him anywhere," he complained. Puck was about to give up when his gaze fell on Hermia and Lysander. "What have we here?" he said. The fairy approached the sleeping couple quietly and carefully, examined Lysander's clothes. "Well, well, well, look at this. He's dressed like an Athenian." This must be him. Wasting no time, the fairy removed the purple flower from his pocket, crushed it in his hand, and poured the love potion onto Lysander's eyelids. Then he took a small step back and smiled. "My work is done here," he said proudly. As the fairy turned to leave, he glanced down at Hermia. "My, she is such a pretty girl. This young man is a fool to reject her." Now, does Lysander reject her? No. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Somebody has made a mistake. Puck, so happy, walked out of the glade and into the wood. Let me just show you a little picture of the oak tree, can I? You see? They're sleeping under the oak tree, and here comes Puck. And of course, Puck, hasty with his decision, made a mistake. Demetrius later arrived at the glade with Helena, following close behind. "Demetrius, wait, wait," she cried. "Please wait for me." "I'm not waiting for you, Helena. Leave me alone." But I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the dark. Please stay with me." "I don't care, Helena," shouted Demetrius. "Go away." Not very nice. The young man glared at Helena and walked off. Tired and out of breath, the girl decided that it was probably best to give up the chase. She leaned heavily against an oak tree and took a handkerchief out of her pocket. Wait a minute. I have to take the handkerchief out, right? To wipe away the tears that were running down her cheeks again. "Why," said Helena, "why am I not as beautiful as Hermia? Why does he love her so?" Helena's sobbing woke Lysander. This is where it gets good, ladies and gentlemen. Woke Lysander, who was sleeping on the other side of the oak tree. "Helena?" said the young man, as he rose to his feet and looked on the other side of the tree. The girl turned around and gasped. "Lysander!" she exclaimed. "You gave me such a fright. What are you doing here?" The young man did not respond. Instead, he walked slowly up to Helena and gently touched her face. "Beautiful Helena," murmured Lysander as he stared deeply into the girl's big brown eyes. I got too much into the role, didn't I? So, "Excuse me?" said Helena. "You are, without a doubt, the most beautiful woman I have ever seen," said Lysander. Helena took a step back. "Lysander, what are you saying? Are you ill?" "No," said the young man as he took Helena's hands in his. "I've been such a fool, Helena. I've wasted so much time with Hermia. I don't know why I did this. I don't know why I didn't see it before. You are the woman for me, Helena. You always have been." Helena stared at Lysander in confusion. "But Lysander, You love Hermia. You're going to marry her. Me? Why would I marry Hermia when I could have someone as wonderful as you? Asked the young man. Helena narrowed her eyes. Is this some kind of joke, Lysander? Are you mocking me? Mocking you, repeated Lysander. I'm not mocking you. Here's a little picture of the oak tree where he's looking at her. It's kind of ironic, right? I'm not mocking you, Helena. I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. How many times has someone said that to you guys on the first date? Right? Sound familiar? Sometimes? You are mocking me, cried Helena as she pushed Lysander away. How could you be so crude, Lysander? It's bad enough that Demetrius can't even bear to look at me. Now you want to make fun of me? I thought you were better than that. Hurt and confused, Helena ran into the wood, sobbing. Lysander chased after the girl. So now, girl chases boy, girl runs away from the boy, and the boy chases girl now. Determined to prove his love for her, he had no idea that he'd been the victim of a magical mix-up. It wasn't long before Hermia woke up and discovered that Lysander had disappeared. Terrified that something terrible had happened to her fiancé, Hermia decided to search the dark wood alone. Now, circumstances, right? I mean, it's all about timing, right? It's like good timing, bad timing. It's kind of like life, isn't it? You know? And relationships in life sometimes, I guess. Let's continue with chapter 6 and see what happens now. Do you remember that for the Duke and Duchess, there were a group of men that were asked to put on a play for their wedding? Here are the men now, also in the wood, rehearsing for this play. In another part of the wood, not far from Titania's cave, right, the wife, the craftsmen were rehearsing their play. After an hour or so spent looking for the perfect place to rehearse, the men decided that a small hill would make the ideal stage. Though the men struggled to remember their lines and often walked on stage at the wrong time, Peter Quince, the director, was pleased with the progress they were making. "Very good, men, very good. Bravo, bravo," he called out from the bottom of the hill. "Now we'll do the scene where Pyramus kills himself. I think..." Bottom cleared his throat and raised his hand. "Excuse me." Yes, Bottom. What is it?" asked Peter. I have a little problem with the scene, Peter." "What's the problem?" "Well," began Bottom, "Pyramus kills himself with a sword, and, well, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that a scene as violent as that will frighten the ladies in the audience." "He makes a good point, Peter," said Tom, the other actor. "Perhaps I should say a little speech before the scene begins," continued Bottom. "In the speech, I could explain to the audience that no one will really be harmed in the play and that I won't really die in the scene. What do you think, Peter?" Peter thought for a moment. All right. I'll write something like a little speech for you. Okay. Well, what about the lion? Asked Tom. Ugh. What about the lion? Asked Peter. Don't you think the ladies will be afraid of the lion? I'm certainly afraid of him, said Francis, the other actor, as he walked on stage in his long dress and high-heeled shoes, because he's playing a woman. He's a very scary lion. Snug removed the lion mask he'd been wearing and walked onto the stage. Perhaps we could write another speech for me explaining that I'm not a real lion. That he's not a real lion? Come on. But this is Shakespeare, right? Excellent idea, Snug, said Bottom. The speech could go something like this. Ladies, oh fair ladies, I beg you, please do not be afraid. I am not a real lion, I am but a man. My name is Snug, and I am a blacksmith. Oh, fine, said Peter. I'll write a speech for you too. So the men nodded in agreement on the speeches. So, we can't bring a real wall into the Duke's palace because there's going to be a wall that needs to be made for the scene of the play. What do you think, Bottom? What should we do? Bottom rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Well, we need this wall, so one of us should play the part of the wall. We could cover the man in plaster, and then he could make a circle with his fingers, which would be the hole in the wall that we need. That seems like a good idea, Bottom, said Peter. Now, can we continue, please? Remember, men, when you're finished your scene, you go stand behind the bushes and wait for your turn. The craftsmen continued with their rehearsal. Completely unaware that Puck was observing them while they were rehearsing. Oh dear Puck. This is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen, said Puck, shaking his head. These craftsmen think that they are actors? Please. So here's Puck standing behind the tree, looking at the actors. This is where it gets really interesting again. Okay. Oh, Puck. Silly, silly Puck. Oh, my sweet, said Bottom, pretending to peer through a wall. Now they're rehearsing. There are so many women lovelier than you. What? No, Bottom, shouted Peter. The line is, there is no woman lovelier than you. Oops, sorry, said Bottom. Carry on, shouted the director. I hear a voice, said Bottom. I'm going to see who it is. Stay here, my dear. Is it my turn to speak? Is it my turn? asked Francis, as Bottom disappeared behind the bushes. Oh, yes, Peter, it's your turn. My darling Pyramus, said Francis, you are so brave and so strong. I love you with all my heart. I will meet you at Ninny's tomb tomorrow. What? No! Shouted Peter. It's not Ninny's tomb. It's Ninus's tomb. Where are you? Bottom, where are you? You should have come in when Francis said that he loved you with all his heart. There was a pause as the men waited for Bottom to return Unfortunately for Bottom, the naughty fairy Puck, yes, dear old Puck, decided to play a trick on him. Puck, while Bottom was waiting behind the bushes for his turn to go back on stage, he cast a spell on Bottom. Bottom finally returned to the stage. "Ah! A monster!" shouted Peter. "Everybody run! Somebody save us!" yelled Francis as he took off with his high heels and hurried down the hill. Bottom watched in total confusion. What? As his fellow actors ran in every direction away from him. What's going on?" he said. "Have they all gone mad?" The screams, though, woke up Titania, the queen, Oberon's wife. And she hurried out of the cave as she was sleeping. And what happened to her? Do you guys remember what happened to Titania? What did her husband do? He poured the magic potion on her eyelids, right? The liquid from the purple flower. So now, whoever she sees first, amore, oh, exactly. Titania hurried in the direction where she heard the shouting from. When Titania arrived at the hill and laid eyes on the donkey-headed Bottom, the love potion took effect and she fell in love instantly. So what did Puck do to Bottom? Why were there men running away from their friend? Because Puck turned Bottom's face into a donkey's face. Imagine that. He looked like a donkey. And that's why they were scared. Hello, Veracruz. And that's why they were scared. But Titania, having the love liquid potion and the liquid on her eyelids, comes out of the cage, looks at Bottom, the donkey-headed Bottom, and what happens? What's going to happen? She looks at him, the queen, Titania, her face smiling with joy. "Oh, handsome mortal, how I love you. Tell me your name." Bottom stared at the beautiful fairy for a moment. "You're in love with me?" he said, scratching his head in confusion. That doesn't really make sense. Then again, good sense and love do not always go hand in hand. The queen clasped her hands together and sighed. "You are as wise as you are handsome." Bottom frowned. "No one has ever called me wise or handsome. But I thank you for your kind words. Now I must find my way out of this wood." "No, no!" cried the queen. "No?" repeated Bottom. "You're not going anywhere. You're going to stay in this wood with me. I will take good care of you, and my servants will attend to your every need." The queen clapped her hands. "Peace blossom, cobweb, moth, mustard seed. Here, 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 here," said the fairies as they hurried to the queen's side. "Do whatever this gentleman asks of you," said Titania. "He is your master now." Not too shabby for Mr. Bottom, I must say. "Greetings, mortal," said the fairies. A pleasure to meet all of you," said Bottom. The fairies placed a wreath of flowers around Bottom's head and led him back to Titania's cave. Needless to say, the weaver was quite pleased with his good luck. Bottom was happy. Meanwhile, Puck, who had been watching Bottom and the queen from behind the tree, was laughing so hard that his sides began to hurt. Once he'd stopped laughing, he ran through the wood to tell Oberon, the king, of his news. And here, my dear friends, is where we end this session of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, what is going to happen next week? It's complicated, but let's see. So join me next week where we will continue the story. Please look on MM Publications' social media page for all of the upcoming events. We are also sharing a frame for your profile pictures regarding Shakespeare Fest. If you would like to, I had it and some of our colleagues had it, and it's found in our Facebook page so that you can share the love, right? Spread the education, right? To have people join us next week. For all of you who are with us here today, thank you very much for joining. Kindly share this video, share the one from last week so that people can start to get a little bit more interested in Shakespeare and his magical world with these characters. Have a wonderful evening, a great afternoon, a good morning for all of you around the world, starting your day, finishing your day, or in the middle of your day. And I look forward to seeing you again. So take care, be safe, and stay happy. Okay.